Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan. In this video, we're going to continue our conversation about WandaVision Episode 4. If you want to see the first part of our conversation, you can see it up there. There's a link above. So we're going to get into theories. Spoilers ahead. All right, so let's get into it. We should move on to theories about this episode. Where do you guys want to start?
I think for me, I see that S.W.O.R.D. is becoming, again, the space agency, kind of like a parallel to what S.H.I.E.L.D. was. And I'm wondering if that translates into Fantastic Four in the future, whether or not they were part of S.W.O.R.D. and then they were in their accident later on. That has actually been speculated online, but I'm just curious because Hayward did talk about space programs, and that kind of leads right into Fantastic Four. But at the same time, there's this other theory about how Fantastic Four might be in the quantum realm. So there's a lot of things that might be in play. And also, how does this tie into the Secret Invasion Disney Plus series that's going to be coming up? Does it tie in? And we already know from the Disney Investor Day that Secret Invasion is tying into Captain Marvel 2. So I wonder if there's any type of those parallels that are happening from WandaVision.
Yeah, I definitely think all of those apply, and they're all connected in some way. First of all, that's Marvel right there. Marvel Studios, the way they like to weave in all the different storylines and connect each other, which is why people love this stuff, right? And it's why I love it. And so I look forward to S.W.O.R.D. showing up in future movies. I hope that S.W.O.R.D. shows up in Captain Marvel 2 to talk about Maria and as Photon and also in the Secret Invasion movies too. I'm sorry, the Secret Invasion series, so that they can touch upon all these things. And I think especially with the way the Skrulls were mentioned here, Colin, you mentioned the Fantastic Four, everything, the space-based type of potential stories that might be coming up. Even X-Men in the near future, if they decide to do the Phoenix story right this time, all of that points to space, right? Everything has to be the cosmic / space, all that stuff. Maybe even they bring Silver Surfer back, or who knows?
Yeah. Absolutely. In the comic books, everything is interconnected. I mean, Blade is in the same world as Spider-Man, is in the same world as Deadpool. So you can get pretty much anywhere in the Marvel universe from anyone, but they're definitely pieces just in this episode that are connected to Fantastic Four, because they talked about Skrulls, and Fantastic Four are always sort of engaging with the Skrulls. So are the Avengers. There are aspects, as we discussed in previous videos, with mutants because of Wanda. So there's lots of potential here. So now that we're actually talking about theories, we go back to our question from the review video. What do you think is going on here with the zombie Vision? Do you think that he's dead? Do you think that she was just having a panic attack? Do you think she has to be inside of this environment for him to move around? Is he alive at all, or is she controlling everything?
So what you just said, controlling everything, and back to what Monica was saying, that it's all Wanda. When Wanda was a little bit in that zoned out state where she just kind of went off on Monica, her focus was all on Monica,
Right.
I don't know if you noticed, but the babies weren't crying either, right? They started crying again as soon as she kind of snapped back a little bit. And then Vision walks in, and she's not paying attention to, I guess, controlling everything. And I guess she forgot to put the face back on to Vision. And so it startles her. That's my thought, is that she, if she's not completely focused, things are falling apart. When something keeps snapping her out, things are falling apart. She's got to focus on all those things to keep the ruse up, keep the facade fantasy going. And in that case right there, it jarred her awake, going, oops, I forgot to put that back on his face. So that's kind of what I think about her powers, or she's the one controlling that. Now, Colin, what you said earlier, it's very possible that something's making her do all this, or leading her, or guiding her, or manipulating her to do it this way. But I think what the actual doing of all this is definitely Wanda.
Yeah, I think I really believe that there's some type of zombie Vision that's going on, like a workaround zombie Vision. That he's actually is dead. I mean, that's actually the real Vision, but reanimated in some ways to fit her idyllic life with children. So that's what I kind of observed from that scene with dead Vision.
Yeah, I think that he's You could read this. I think that you could read the scene in two different ways. So like I said earlier, she either was so jarred by that situation with Monica that she saw Vision as he actually is, or that is how he actually is, and she's creating the illusion for everyone. It makes me think of a lot of different things. So, like, is this how everyone sees him? And this is why everyone is playing their part, because everyone sees him as like an undead person, and she's acting like everything is fine, and these people are just trying to go along because she's obviously crazy, because she has all these scenes with this dead person with a hole in his head. I don't know. Is the illusion just for her, or is it for the entire town? Is my question there. If that is the illusion, it's possible, like I said, that she just was so jarred by it that she psychologically saw him as he was, as opposed to how he actually appears in this environment. But I think your theory's there that she lost control, and she lost control of the illusion is probably the most logical explanation for what's going on in that scene.
Yeah, even in the comics or certain magic stories and all that, they have something called glamours, right? You have like a fake hologram or some kind of projection that's over you. And when they were doing that magic show as well, her name is Glamour. I don't know. I just made that little tiny connection, thinking, is everything is a ruse, everything is a glamour, everything is just a projection of what she wants everyone to see.
They break up glamour a couple times. In the first episode, she's reading Glamorous magazine, which when you first look at it, you think of it as just a play on Glamour magazine, which is a real magazine that exists. But it's possible that Glamorous came up. Their magic show names was Glamour, and what was the other one? Glamour and, do you remember? Illusion. Glamour and Illusion. Wow. We're definitely on the nose there. So yeah, if this whole thing is a glamour or an illusion, these are actually their names in the comic book, by the way. So in the comic book, they did some sort of show, or I forget the specific storyline, but they took on those names in the comics as well, Glamour and Illusion, for a short period of time. So I thought it was just a callback to that when I saw it earlier in the second episode, but it also could just be a very knowing nod from the writers that all of this is a glamour, all of this is illusion. Wanda's is illusion specifically. So one of the things I wanted to go back to in the theory section is the board. Do you guys have any other insights or thoughts now that we're in the full-blown theory section about the hexagon?
I'll be honest, hexagon, I'm lost on the hexagon. I don't have a single thought to that one. Do you guys? How about you guys?
I don't know. I mean, maybe, it could be an Infinity Stone reference. I am not 100% sure if they wanted to call back to that. Maybe some sort of reference to some sort of MacGuffin that's in the Phase 4. So that could be something.
I mean, the only thing that I have is what we had in the last video about AIM. Their symbol has a hexagon in it. But I don't know why AIM, after they're pushing Wanda to do this, would have their symbol show up everywhere. It'd be a little bit too much of a calling card for the world.
Yeah.
Make the entire perimeter of the anomaly a hexagon. The hexagon keeps showing up in the end credit scene, the beginning credits of the show. Hexagon show up there. Actually, one of the things I missed when we talked about theories from the second episode that was like Bewitched, in that animated opening, there is a picture of a moon, and there's stars that dot the moon, and if you connect them, there's another hexagon there.
Oh wow!
Monica Rambeau in the last episode, her earrings are hexagons, so they show up over and over and over again. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey folks, I just wanted to pause to say, if you're enjoying the conversation, if you're finding it useful, engaging, entertaining, any of the above, please like the video below. It really helps the channel grow, and we would really appreciate it. All right, back to it. The other thing that we talked about in our previous conversation about this was the sitcom thing, and we talked about the fact that it's possible that she watched these when she was a kid. But I've heard theories that I think are probably more correct, that it could be that she watched them with Vision, like she's this is this is a thing that she was very fond of. It's something that she remembers when they were kind of on the run together. They couldn't really go out in public, so they just watched television together, which would also explain why in Infinity War her accent was almost gone. Right? They're watching a lot of television. That's how they're bonding with each other. So she's trying to get back to that time in her life when she was happy. The other thing that nods to that is at the very end of this episode, and I can play that again. She says, "What are we watching tonight?" So it seems it's a very, very, very big part of their relationship that they watch television.
Well, what should we watch tonight?
It's like, what should we watch tonight?
Yeah.
This is not the first time we see them in front of the television with Vision with the remote control. So it's possible that this is something that she just remembers very fondly, and she's trying to recreate that love that she had between him and her.
I can see that. There's definitely something to that. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Then we see. It's funny. I don't think they would actually list on this board who the real villain is, but all they have up here is the Skrulls, and I don't think it's the Skrulls. I mean, it's possible that it's the Skrulls. That's one of the things that we didn't list last week. We said maybe Hydra agents, maybe AIM agents, but I guess they could be Skrulls. That the people in the town are Skrulls, but we know from this episode, because they've identified several of them, that they're regular people. Although Skrulls have pretended to be regular people too, so they could still be Skrulls. Yeah, and it seems that after she's controlling this environment, she's only controlling it within a 5-mile radius. Although that's not true. She's controlling the Westview anomaly within the 5-mile radius, but it seems that her power extends across the world, because if you remember the first scene when Wu meets Rambeau, he mentions that he's checking on someone in witness protection, right? And and they thought he said that his original thought was that they ran, right? The person that he had under witness protection. So he called all his known contacts and associates, and they said they didn't know him. They said they didn't know the person that they had under witness protection. And you got to imagine that all his known contacts and associates don't live anywhere near Westview, because that would kind of defeat the purpose of putting someone in witness protection. They probably live far, far away. So whatever Wanda's doing is affecting people across the country, or whatever is happening. Because, it could be not just Wanda. It could be Wanda with the help of someone else. And we also see the cops that are outside of the perimeter, their memory also being affected. But it goes much further than people just outside of the town.
So she does affect reality somehow.
Yeah. It's interesting. Interesting.
I also find it interesting as to see. We went back to the theory about whether the townsfolk are in control of themselves. I mean, I think they answered that question, but whether or not there are still people that are quote unquote trapped in there that we haven't met yet, whether or not they're under the control as well. Or are they a figment of Wanda's imagination for other townfolk?
You said they answered the question of whether or not the townfolk are have free will. I don't think they answered that question. Where did they answer it? Or maybe I missed it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, they answered the question that they were identified with the board. Like all the different characters and stuff, and so I was thinking from that standpoint that the question whether or not they're under control or not has somewhat been answered, partially answered, but I can't be certain.
Yeah, again, it's possible that I missed something when I was watching the episode, but I don't know that question is definitively answered. Until we hear more from Rambeau besides it's Wanda, it's all Wanda, like more information about whether or not she was playing a part, because they actually talk about that, and I can actually go back to that scene when Wu was like,
Amy's social.
So what?
Wu was like, why is she playing a part for
Well, she doesn't appear to be harmed in any way, but that is definitely not the boss lady I met yesterday.
So what? Deep cover? Monica has to play along?
With whom? Or else what? What are we looking at here? Is it an alternate?
So she's like, Monica has to play along, And he's like, with whom or else what? So he doesn't know, and they don't know if she's playing along or if she's being affected, because we know that we know from previously that whatever's happening can affect people's minds because she can make people forget. So I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult to tell at this point. And until we get more information from Monica, as I said, there's no way to actually tell. And it seems like the next episode isn't going to have Monica, because at the very end, when they get on the couch, the aspect ratio goes back down to the 4:3. So I think the next episode, I think the next episode is going to have us back inside the other side of the anomaly. So we're not going to get any information from the other side of the anomaly unless they move back and forth. It's possible that they move back and forth.
Yeah. Now it should be the 80s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually think, Nathan, you mentioned that the episode 4 was not titled. I think it was titled on Disney Plus. I did see it, and it said, "We interrupt your programming," or something like that. It was around interruption of programming.
You're right.
Okay.
We interrupt this programming?
Yeah.
I watched it this morning at 3 a.m. So when they dropped it, they dropped it like they usually do, with just the episode, just the number. They didn't have a title.
Yeah, they probably did not, because when I saw it earlier, in the mid morning, they actually did have the episode name already. Okay. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. Remind me again, who does Monica become in the comics?
So she was Captain Marvel. She was the original Captain Marvel. We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
But then she becomes Spectrum, and then she becomes a hero called. Actually, they have a nod to her hero name in the scene at Sword. Her mom's name, Photon. So you see it. Let me actually find that here on the screen here.
Yeah,
she's called Photon. It seems like they killed off her mom. Her code name inside of the MCU is probably going to be Photon, not Spectrum. If that was her mom's call sign. Because if you remember from Captain Marvel, Maria was Photon and Carol Danvers was Avenger, or the Avenger, or something like that.
Yeah, Avenger.
Yeah. So inside of the 616 universe, which is the comic book universe, she's had several call names. I think right now she might be Spectrum, but she might be Photon. I don't know right now, but she was the original Captain Marvel. So. Yeah.
So that's the only theory I have as to why she's not dead, is that maybe they're pointing to her being a superhero one day, and maybe that she's got some ability we don't know about that has kept her alive.
Latent mutant ability or something like that, because
something like that.
Because I don't think she has superpowers, because I feel like she would have fought back, right? She doesn't have superpowers yet.
Something to keep her alive? I don't know.
In the comic books, in the comic books, she is one of the most powerful mutants on Earth, because she's basically pure energy, and she can't die because she's pure energy. So if they had her at her full power level fighting Wanda, they would be pretty much evenly matched. Unless, Wanda decided to like change existence and like take her power away, but blow for blow, she would have. They would have been evenly matched. They're like omega level mutants within the Marvel universe. Yeah. Any other thoughts, theories, or things you guys wanted to talk about that we missed?
Yeah, I think that this episode definitely answers a lot of questions, but again, just like what Marvel does all the time, is that when they answer some questions, they come up with more questions for you to keep tuned in to the episode. So overall, I think that this episode really accelerated the plot and just, I think, kept people engaged. Whereas it was a good change of pace from. The sitcom style episodes from the first 3.
Right.
And we were talking a little bit outside this video about this, just the audience response that we're seeing or hearing the chatter about. I think it very much is indicative of the it's again, sign of the times. You know, we're in a binge culture society right now, where everyone likes to binge every episode in one sitting, and we got some people that are pretty impatient. They're seeing 3 straight episodes where it's it's teasing, and then we get a little bit of a payoff here with some answers. I think the way they have this series set up, I personally appreciate the teasing, and at the same time, I can also see why some people are just so impatient because of the slow burn. They want to see this all in one sitting. So
Yeah.
I think that needs to be said, because we do see some people who seem to be not very patient with the story, even though we're appreciating all the different things about it.
Right.
They just don't have the patience. Why?
Yeah, and I also want to make a point to piggyback off of that is just the mere fact that we ended up with Endgame, which was probably one of the top movies, well, it's the highest grossing movie of all time. Lots of action, lots of drama.
Yep.
And then going from that to WandaVision, where it's kind of, like you said, John, a slow burn, and there's actually not much action that's involved.
Correct.
Like there's no Iron Man scene, there's no Captain America scene where he picks up the hammer. And there's none of those kind of payoffs that are there at the end of Endgame that are at that level. So because of that, I think that people are just, like you said, very impatient, and we just want what happened in Endgame. And it's like, no, we can't really have that, because if people remember, Marvel really didn't start becoming a machine until probably phase 2, I would argue. When most people, the Winter Soldier was the turning point, and then it kind of accelerated from there. But remember, Iron Man was pretty successful, but then they struggled for a little bit with the Thor movies, and even though the first Avengers was good, they struggled with some of the movies that are and the choices that were made in the early parts of the MCU.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. I think everything that you guys are saying is true. I think people are definitely a bit impatient, but it's also very
spoiled.
Yeah, they're a bit impatient. They like binging things. I think it's very nerd culture to like to analyze over things. So I appreciate the time between episodes and the speculation between and the time that you're allowed to speculate through between episodes. But I understand that that's not for everyone. I hope that the show is successful, so they continue to experiment. The other thing that you mentioned, John, I'm not sure if it was John or Colin, we were talking through chat, is that people have been complaining about the fact that the movies are formulaic, and they try to do something different, and then people are complaining that they're doing something different. This is a very creative and innovative way of telling a superhero story. It's very close to what you would see in some of the best television shows that we've seen about superheroes over the last couple of years, like Doom Patrol or Umbrella Academy. So I appreciate, and while Marvel has been consistently good, they have never been good at that like cerebral level of those sort of shows, and now they're doing that in this show, and I appreciate that.
It's a different medium, and I think they're taking full advantage of that, which is great, especially testing out their creativity and doing something different. So so I like that. And plus, these are all characters that we read in a comic book, so we would love to see more of them, especially done by Marvel Studios now, where the creative minds behind the scenes are definitely hard at work in making sure that these all fit, they all connect to the greater universe.
Exactly. Well, that is what we think, and that's what we see in this last episode, but we're also very interested in what you guys think. So please comment down below, like the video. It helps us grow the channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.